Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for joining me. Today we're going to take a look at this Toshiba RT-6035, and whilst it wasn't a massively common model in its own right, it was very similar in design and spec to a lot of the Toshiba units of the time, so hopefully this should be quite an interesting little video. Now, I've had this on the bench for quite a while, to be honest, and I'm sorting out my workshop at the moment and deciding what to keep and what to work on. And I thought this one might be one that I could take a quick look at, check out what the issues are and maybe get it fixed, and if so, share it with you guys. So that's what I'm going to do today. So when I first got this, it was described as not working. It didn't have any power at all. And I did subsequently find out that that was because there's a very temperamental connection on the AC plug at the back of the unit. So when I do manage to hold that in just the right place, I've noticed that the radio does kind of work, but there is no FM stereo, at least the stereo light's not coming on. Furthermore, it does only play through one channel as well, so that needs to be looked at. And also it does need a tape service. Actually, the transport controls do affect the spindles, but I'm quite sure it's going to be pretty wobbly and in need of a good service. So I think we'll take a good look at that now and see how we get on. And as always, the first thing then is to remove the casing screws. I will just caveat at this stage that only to be done by trained operatives, qualified personnel and all of that. There is lethal voltage potentially inside, so extreme care must be used. You can see though that the mech comes out really easily on this particular model, and that belt really has seen better days, or at least the flywheel seems to have quite a lot of degraded residual kind of rubbery mess where the belt is on its way out. So we want to look really at this power supply issue first. So we're just going to get these speakers out. The speakers are crazy easy to remove on this. They are just fitted into the little slots, as is the circuit board in fact, and you can see the dial cord arrangement there and how easy it would be to remove any of the chips if we need to as well. First, I will just take a very quick look at the other side of the board. You can see the balance, tone and volume controls, the record play bar, the power transformer and all the IF stages for the radio, the antenna and all that kind of stuff. It's all handily mounted on one board. But anyway, here we go then for the power issue. We've got the AC input there, and you can see it's a little bit wobbly, and you may not quite see it on the screen, but I did notice with the naked eye, as it were, that there are a couple of fractured joints just inside the mounting points just there. So we need to reflow those, and I'm quite sure that's all we're going to need to do on that. So just a bit of flux first, and then reflow the joints, make sure everything is good and tight on there. And although it is sort of low residue flux, we'll just put a drop of alcohol in and brush that up, give it a clean. And a quick tweak of the variable resistor there for the pilot signal. Check out my other videos on how to do that. And then we can see the FM stereo light working now. That's correctly tuned, so it will separate the left-hand channels nicely when we want to listen in stereo mode. And you can see that's all working really well. It's picking up lots of FM stereo. And then just to put it all back together briefly, you can see that the power light is now steady and permanent, and the FM stereo light is flickering as we're moving between the different stations. So far so good. Next then we turn our attention to the channel that's not working. So I'm doing a real easy test here and plugging some headphones in, and as the headphone jack is connected to the speakers, we've got good stereo through the headphones, and so it must be a bad speaker. The connections to the speaker are good, but as you can see here, we're getting an open coil, infinite resistance. And although it's slightly off frame, I'm actually just testing the resistance of a random resistor on the board here to make sure that the readings are working well, which they are, and reconfirming that we've got nothing there on the speaker. So time to try and find a replacement speaker. And with this old design, they were just wrapped around, those leads, look, were just wrapped time and time again around there, so really easy to get off. The donor one, however, just needed a bit of solder and persuasion, so we're going to remove that out of an old unit. It's not an identical speaker, but it's the very similar ohms, and also it's slightly higher rated but very similar power, and importantly same size, because the dimensions are fairly critical on this unit. So having checked that the resistance is working and that speaker is good, we can just trim some of those long tails back and solder the cables on. So the speaker was working nicely now. Just a quick practical demonstration for you guys to see it there. That's the vibration. moving that bit of shop towel up and down, and of course if I then turn the volume down, that suddenly stops, so you can see that working nicely. Right then, onto the cassette mech. On this one, just a couple of screws holding the backing plate on. We can remove that carefully because the resistor to ground is still attached, so we leave that on there. Remove the bushing and the washer and get rid of that belt as well, which you can see is all gummed up. Trying to clean this up with a bit of alcohol and a cotton tip at the moment, just to see if we can clean that up. It's looking like it's putting up a bit of resistance, so the easiest thing is to remove the flywheel. Then we can clean the capstan while we're at it and really get in there and kind of get as much of that out as we can. Unfortunately, it also gone past the dissolved stage and turned to more of a waxy substance, so we just needed an extra little bit of persuasion with a tool there, but just make sure we don't scratch the actual flywheel. And turning our attention as well to the motor spindle, so we're just cleaning this one off as well. Make sure there's no residual belt or anything like that. You can see a fair bit of mess. And we'll also clean up any old grease as well, so we'll get rid of that and apply any new grease as required. And finally start putting it all back together. There's the washer and the bushing. We'll put a new deck tech belt on there, get the plate back on there and gently screw it down. So 2 screws again to go back in, and just a little bit at a time, just checking the end float as well, make sure the resistance is good on that belt. Soon be time to put it all back together, but first I just want to clean the heads, so play and record and the erase head, also the capstan again, and indeed the pinch roller, and a quick fire up test. All looking good, so we'll see you on the other side of a Fade to Black. So here it is then, the Toshiba RT-6035, and I've got to say it's actually a very handsome unit now after a deep clean and a polish. When it came in though, it did have its issues, namely there were no power, or at least intermittent power, so we've resoldered and solidified and fixed the power inlet. Had no FM stereo, but we've addressed that by tweaking the pilot signal resistor. Also, it only had 1 channel, but it did work through the headphones after a test, so we identified that as being a speaker. We substituted that for a replacement of a similar size and specification. And that just left the tape mech, which needed a decent service, clean and re-grease, cleaned the heads, the capstan, the pinch roller, cleaned up all the flywheel, the pulleys, and put a new belt on there. So it's all working beautifully now. We'll give it a very quick test just to show it working. So there it is guys, the Toshiba RT-6035. Hope you enjoyed the video and indeed found it useful. Please do subscribe and hit the notification bell. Would you believe that literally 9 out of 10 viewers aren't subscribed to the channel? And as a channel, we're only small and need all of your support. I know you don't like to be nagged, but it really would help us immensely. So we've got lots of stuff to come. I've got a new format coming for the channel as well, so it'd be great to have you on board for that, and it'd be lovely to have you help me to grow the channel so that more people can have access to some of the stuff we do here. Thanks again for watching. I'll be back soon, so stay safe in the meantime. All the best, and thanks again for now. Bye bye.